All right. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Meños podcast, episode 5. I think it's 5. Yeah, I'm going to go with 5. All right. So, today's topic is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. Drugs. Kidding. Kidding about it being near and dear to my heart. But it is drugs. Now you're asking, why would I do a podcast on drugs? Well, let me give you some info. So, for those of you that don't know, I am a teacher. So I had 2 months off, and I was reading a lot, working out a lot. I lost 10 pounds because I was working out like twice a day, and I was reading. Kind of felt like I was in prison. I mean, just working out and reading. But a book I read, Human History on Drugs by Sam Kelly. If you enjoy reading, you should check it out. It's a really good read. And it just talked about historical figures and their battles with addiction. And I'm a really skeptical person, so I made sure to fact check all of this. And yeah, it was all accurate. And I kind of knew about some of these, and then some of these I had no idea. So I'm going to just give a brief overview of some of the people that I'll be talking about. So Alexander the Great, definitely one of them. Washington, JFK, and Ramses the Second, Ramses the Great. I could throw him in there. Who else? I guess it'll come to me when I start. Oh, and Hitler. Yeah. How could I forget the Austrian painter? But I just find the topic fascinating because people have been experimenting with shit to get them out of a state of mind since we've existed as humans. And even nowadays, like back then, 3,000 years ago or so, the pharaoh would literally give his workers rations of beer because beer was actually safer to drink than water. And a lot of you are probably thinking, like, what the fuck? How? Well, it's because alcohol kills bacteria. And back then, they didn't have fucking water fountains or Kirkland purified water. They just had water like straight out of a lake or a river. And if you don't know, people throw a lot of shit in these rivers or lakes, even piss and shit in them, shower. And on top of that, animals are dirty. There could be like dead carcasses in there, all that bacteria. And if you don't have a way to purify it, it could end up fucking getting you really sick. So there's this YouTube page I really liked. It was called The Outdoor Boys. And the guy, Luke, he would talk about how difficult it is to purify water without the proper tools. He had like this bag that like you would just put up, and then the gravity would cause the water to go down and go down this purifier. And eventually it looked kind of clean. But he would do that twice, and then I think he would boil it too sometimes. But what I'm getting at is you need that purifier. If you don't have it, you're pretty much fucked. So it was safer to drink alcohol back in the day. So people would just drink beer. And it's not as taboo as it is now, just because, I mean, you needed to stay hydrated or else you would die. I don't know if you guys know the weather in Egypt, but it's really hot. So you would get dehydrated pretty fast. So yeah, that's why the Egyptians would get rations for beer while they were working. And then fast forward it 3,000 years. During World War II, the Nazis would give their soldiers pills. And they weren't just any pills. It was crystal meth. Like, they were literally giving them crystal meth. And when you think about it, it's actually really fucking smart. I mean, you don't need to eat when you're on a sick one. You don't sleep when you're on a sick one. You get super hyper aggressive when you're on a sick one. And you're hyper aware. Those are like 4 perfect qualities for a super soldier. So that's why during the whole span of World War II, the Nazi army gave somewhere around 200 million pills to their soldiers, which is crazy if you really think about it. They were just drugging them. to make them really effective soldiers. In a way, it's kind of smart. I mean, I haven't really read into it too much what the U.S. Army or the U.S. military does, but I would imagine when we invaded Iraq, there was some amphetamines they were giving the soldiers just to keep them awake. And the reason for that is you need to move as fast as possible without stopping to surprise the enemy and take the land. So that's why the Germans invented the Blitzkrieg, and that's how they were able to take France and Poland. So really effective. And just to talk about a little more on drugs, I find it really fascinating. Like, think about the early humans, like 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. Like, bro, they were just going around like, hey, that looks kind of good. And then they would just take a berry, and then they would probably kill them. Or they would take a shroom, and either it could be good enough to put like on pizza, or like you're going to trip out. Or worst case scenario, you could probably just die. So, yeah, I just found it fascinating. Shout out those early humans who passed away so we could enjoy a high. Not all heroes wear capes. Those are the good guys. So, one person I want to bring up first, just because he's my favorite president, George Washington. A lot of people think he was this solid guy who did no wrong, like the perfect man. Like, there's a fable that goes around. I heard it in elementary school how George Washington got this axe as a little kid, and he was so excited to use it, he chopped down his dad's cherry tree. And his dad was like, who the fuck cut my cherry tree down? He's like, I cannot tell a lie, father. It was me. Yeah, that didn't actually happen. That was just a bunch of bullshit. Propaganda, I guess, to hype him up. But he was a very impressive man. I mean, you don't get unanimous vote from Congress twice to become president and defeat the world power at the time. So he was a badass, 100%. I would say he's probably my favorite president. But what I was getting at with his drug use, a lot of people don't know he would take opium and he grew weed. Some of you might have known that. Yeah, he grew hemp, like weed. And back then, in the 1930s, it actually became illegal. But back then, the hemp was used as fiber. The fiber, you could use it for rope, building blocks. It's just a good building material. It's light and it's strong. So he grew hemp and he used opium for pain. So you're probably thinking, what's opium? Opium is a sedative. It's basically what's in heroin, you know? And it's a beautiful flower if you've ever seen it. And you cut the flower and it starts dripping this liquid. It's called milk of the poppy. Well, back then they used to call it milk of the poppy. And you collect that liquid, and yeah, that's opium that you could use for painkillers or to get high. Most people nowadays probably use it to get high, but there's still a lot of parts in the world that use opium for painkillers. I know for a fact fentanyl is used in hospitals, and fentanyl gets a bad rap, but it's also a really good painkiller for people in the hospital who are suffering serious pain. Not heartbreaking pain type shit, but like pain like, oh shit, I got shot. Like that kind of pain. So his drug of choice would be opium, and he would take it at night because he'd want to sleep. And also throughout the day, he'd be careful not to take it like when he has to give a speech or something, because no quiere estar todo pendejito. And the thing that caused him the most pain was his teeth. You guys have probably heard this, but he didn't have real teeth, because back then they didn't have fucking Colgate, they didn't have floss, they didn't have fucking mouthwash, they didn't have any of this. So mouth hygiene was a really big issue for people back then, and he lost the majority of his teeth. By the time he died, he only had one tooth that was actually his. Of like the fuck, how many teeth do humans have? I want to say somewhere between 20 and 40. maybe 20 and 35. I don't know. I don't have a degree in biology. Uh, I'm a history teacher for a reason. But uh, if you've ever felt or got something stuck in your gum, or you've had a really bad tooth pain, I had to get like a root canal 2 years ago, and that shit fucking sucks. That thing hurts, and I can't imagine without the Novocaine or without the painkiller. So that's why he constantly had to take opium, because he was constantly in pain. And back then, people did know you could get addicted to it, but it didn't have the negative connotation it has now. Just because, I mean, you didn't really have other fucking options, so kind of needed it. So as long as you weren't abusing it, then I think people were, they're willing to look the other way. Also, he his teeth. Fun fact. People like to whitewash history and be like, "Oh, his teeth were made out of wood." No. His teeth were made out of livestock teeth, so like donkeys and horses. But the majority of dentures he got were from other people. And you're probably thinking, who would willingly give up their teeth? No one. But if you were one of his slaves and he needed teeth, guess what you were giving up? Your teeth. So yeah, Washington got teeth from his slaves, and he also bought teeth though. People would sell teeth because they needed money, and they're like, "Fuck, I guess I could just give these two up and feed my family for a month." But yeah, so people would sell teeth. He'd get it from the slaves, and people would even get teeth from dead people. I mean, they're dead already; they're not gonna use it. So yeah, it's crazy that it's kind of crazy how far people went back then for basic necessities we take for granted now, which is why I like learning history and teaching it. It's really interesting, and this subject gets a bad rep just because it's a lot of reading, and we focus too much on the who, what, when, where, and not enough on the why. And I feel like the why is the most interesting part about history. Like, why did these things happen? Why did George Washington take opium? I just explained. So he wasn't the only president, though, that struggled with substance abuse. Well, I wouldn't say he struggled with it. It's just, it is what it is at the time. There were definitely presidents who did struggle with their addictions, and I'll get to them. Actually, the list might be a little longer, but I'm not going to go so off tangent with those two presidents. So I'll talk about Johnson briefly. Andrew Johnson, not LBJ. So Andrew Johnson was after Abraham Lincoln. He was the 17th president of the United States. And Richard Nixon. He was another person who was a raging alcoholic. I'll get into that, though. And then moving on from George Washington. So yeah, when you think of George Washington, that motherfucker did heroin. And he sold weed. That's a real one in my book. So another person I would like to draw some light on is Alexander the Great. So a lot of you have probably heard about him. If your name is Alex or Alejandro, you're probably named after this guy. Well, not indirectly, but that name is famous because of him. I really like the name, by the way. If I ever have a son, I wouldn't mind naming him Alex. It's a nice name. But what I was getting at is he died really young. And many historians argue that he died because of his substance abuse. This motherfucker could drink. No tomaba este güey, tragaba. He was just fucking... He would put them away. And not beer. Like, he drank strong stuff. And he didn't just mess with alcohol. He also abused opium. And some argue that was his downfall. So I'll just give you a brief background about the guy. Really impressive. His dad was a king. He conquered most of the civilized world by the time he was 32. So we're talking about from Greece all the way to India, Afghanistan, India. So the nickname Afghanistan gets is the graveyard of empires, and it's kind of valid because the British couldn't take it, Alexander the Great couldn't take it. Uh, I guess the Islamic caliphates did take it because they even pushed into Pakistan. We couldn't take them. We left Afghanistan with our tail tucked in between our legs 3 years ago. So yeah, they're an impressive people. But what I was getting at is Alexander the Great. He conquered most of the known world as a very young man. There's a legend that says Julius Caesar went to visit his gravesite or a statue he had, and he began to weep. And the reason behind those tears wasn't because he missed Alexander the Great or anything along those lines. It's just he was comparing himself to Alexander the Great. He's like, fuck. He's like, this guy fucking conquered the whole world, and I'm not even king of mine, like king of Rome. So he was kind of just like feeling sorry for himself. He had a really grand image of himself, and he's like, this guy, I'll never reach his heights. Some might argue, I don't know. I thought he was really amazing, especially because he was just like a wild guy. Like, he would drink, he would do crazy shit. So Alexander the Great never lost a battle. Like, that's gangster. Like, out of all the battles he fought, he did not lose one. And I think he was probably super ADHD, and he also had a really good teacher. The Aristotle, like the most famous philosopher in the world, was his professor, his personal professor. So the dude had brains. The dude was a good fighter. He had deep pockets. He just had everything going for him. The only thing that he couldn't control was his alcohol. He would drink like a motherfucker. So the Greeks had a tradition of drinking wine, but they wouldn't drink it straight like that. They would water it down. So I believe the exact ratio is 3 cups of water to 1 cup of wine, or 2 cups of water to 1 cup of wine, just to water down the wine. Think about it like drinking fucking Michelob Ultras or like Bud Light instead of drinking cut waters or tequila. You want to be there for a long time. And Alexander the Great was like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. So yeah, he would drink a lot, to the point where instead of drinking out of a cup, this motherfucker would serve himself bowls, like full ass bowls of wine with no water, and he would just drink them, like just pound them. He was just putting them away. And he wasn't we all have that, or we've all experienced that person who just drinks too much and they just get too fucking rowdy. I'm glad to say I've never been that drunk. I don't know how to shut the fuck up when when I drink too much. Yeah, I was like, give me a podcast mic when I got some alcohol in me. But he was not that guy. He would get rowdy. You know, you ever drink too much and then you wake up with anxiety, like, oh fuck, what did I do last night? God damn it, I fucking texted my ex. Like, ah, shit, I spent what? How much money did I put on black? Oh no. Or you check your story and you're like, oh, what the fuck did I do? Or you know, yeah, Alexander the Great didn't have that problem. He had that, like, oh shit, oh, I killed someone. Oh, damn. Well, I'm the king, so oh well. Yeah, he would get really violent, do really crazy shit when he had too much to drink, to the point where he killed one of his best friends. That's crazy. And the more I think about it, I've actually seen friends get into it when they've had too much alcohol. So I'm like, I can't imagine that, but you know, running the ones is very different than fucking stabbing one of your friends. And that's exactly what he did. He had a friend named Cledius. Cletius. Cledius, however you say it. But they were going back and forth, and eventually they had to get separated. But then Alexander the Great was like, "Nah, fuck that," and he got a spear. And as Cleidius had his back turned to him, have you ever seen American Dad? Like that Ricky Spanish episode where Roger's just like, "What's Ricky Spanish?" Yeah, it's kind of what he did to his best friend. He just fucking impaled him with a spear, and he went to sleep. And perks of being the king. Who the fuck's gonna tell you something? You're the king. This is not democracy. This is not the United States. This is the ancient world. So he kind of just went to sleep, and then he woke up like, god damn, the fuck happened last night? And then his people are just like, do you want to tell him? Because I don't want to tell him. And he's just like, where's Cleidius? And his people are just like, god damn it. You kind of killed him. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, you guys had some words, and then you impaled him with the spear. And he was devastated when he wasn't drunk. Like when he sobered up and he realized he killed not only one of his best friends, but one of his best generals. Like to the point where Cleidius saved Alexander the Great's life on the battlefield. Literally, he saved his life. And he was one of his most trusted generals. He was his boy. He was like literally like one of his best friends. But that alcohol and that narcissistic personality caused him to kill him. And he didn't take it lightly. Like the legend has it that he cried for 3 straight days because of the pain he felt from losing his best friend and a general. So it's not like this guy was a complete sociopath. It's just he was super impulsive. And I could kind of relate to that because I'm really impulsive. I've done a lot of stupid shit in my life. And a lot of it is out of impulse. So, I mean, I don't think I'd fucking impale, like, one of my friends. At least, I hope not. But, yeah, I could see why he gets that bad rep. Effective leader, though. And an effective military strategist. But, damn, just a terrible drunk. Terrible drunk. So, he was never really the same after that. And then, that's not the only friend he lost. He had a tragic life, especially being a soldier. A lot of people he cared for that died. And the reason his soldiers stuck around him for so long was because he was the man, you know? He was an effective military leader. They never lost a fight. They would just keep winning and winning and winning and winning. And he treated his soldiers pretty good. But eventually, you know, they got to India and they're like, what the fuck? Like, we're from Greece. You can't just take a flight like now. Like, hey, I'm just go to the airport. I'm going to grab a beer at the restaurant and then just fly out, get home like in 6 hours. No, bro. Like, those campaigns were months, years at a time. So you could go years without seeing your family. And it's really crazy because I like to think, what if they just never gave up? How far would they have gone? Because they made it to the Indian subcontinent. I was like, imagine they just kept pushing. Like, do you think they would have got to China? I don't know, because you'd have to cross the Himalayas. I think about these scenarios a lot as I'm like on a run or something, or like cooling down from a run. But yeah, he didn't stop drinking, and eventually he got really sick on one campaign. He was drinking, and he was mixing though. He was drinking and he was taking opium, and he told his close advisors, he's like, I'm gonna go hit the hay. I don't feel good. And sure enough, he went back to his bed and he was being unresponsive. He couldn't move. And then after a couple days, they declared him dead. And yeah, a lot of people don't really know whether it was because of the alcohol or the opium or a mix of both. I would say it's probably a mix of both. But I would say more of the alcohol, because that shit fucks your body up. It's good water. Sorry, guys. On a personal note, I've noticed the older I get, my tolerance for alcohol the next day just gets worse and worse. Like, fuck, these hangovers suck. I just want to lay down in bed all day after I drink a lot. And the more you think about it, I was like, this shit's actually just poison. And we've been psyoped into thinking that it's not that unhealthy, but it's really fucking unhealthy. It's not good for you. I'm gonna still keep drinking though. It's another person I would want to bring up. I wrote some notes here, but I kind of just wanted to freeball it. Ooh, Ramses the second. He was really cool. If you follow me on Instagram and you saw the book I posted, he's the one smoking a joint. And he's also the pharaoh that built the pyramids. Supposedly. He built a lot of things. A lot of the monuments that stand today were during his reign. And that's because he was a super egocentric, narcissistic ass leader. Like, terrible. How they describe him, like a terrible person. But when you carry yourself like God on earth, then I mean, you do whatever you want to do, basically. You know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And he also liked to partake in substance abuse. His substance wasn't opium though. It was weed. He loved the ganja. He loved the devil's lettuce. He loved Satan's cabbage. Yeah. And you're probably asking yourself, like, how the fuck do you know this? They found his tomb. And within his tomb, there was a THC residue. And for THC residue to be there in the quantities that it was, it means he either was a heavy ass stoner or he chose to get buried with it. And if you know anything about the Egyptians, is they got buried with things. They really wanted it in the afterlife. So for him to be buried with weed probably means he was like a huge stoner. And this is all speculation, of course, because this was like 3,000 years ago. More than 3,000 years ago, actually. And I find it interesting, the theory that he was a pothead because he was also a soldier. So if you were the pharaoh, you had to lead the armies. I guess you being the pharaoh, you don't have to do anything. But, I mean, you want your people's respect. And you want to be seen leading from the front on the battlefield. So soldiers get injured, especially back then. Nowadays, not so much. Well, for the American army, at least. I mean, soldiers die, but you're talking about the whole 20-year war on terror. Less than 9,000 soldiers, or less than 10,000 soldiers died. Russia lost 17 million in World War II. So, yeah, Americans, we have a very fantasized version of war. But what I'm getting at is Ramses sustained injuries while he was a commander. And like I said, this was before painkillers. Opium, I'm sure, was available, but for some reason, weed was his drug of choice, which is crazy. I mean, some strong ass indica like can put you on your ass, I guess, or some edibles. If I were to try those, allegedly. But yeah, I guess even nowadays, that's why medical marijuana is a thing. People use it for pain. But yeah, so Ramses the Great, he enjoyed his devil's lettuce. And another person I did want to bring up was Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson was a drunk. And this is from Mary Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's wife. Like, literally in her diary, it's like, this motherfucker was drunk every day. On the day of his inauguration, he was drunk. He had to give a speech to where everyone was just like, "Oh, god damn it, who let this guy get up there?" Even Lincoln was embarrassed, and Lincoln only chose him because uh, he was a Southern Democrat who was still in office. So a lot of the Democrats or a lot of the Southern people decided to secede completely from government. He was the only one that stayed, the only senator. So Lincoln decided to bring him into the fold just because he wanted it to bring the Union back together. And in order to do that, he felt like the Southern states needed some representation. So that's probably why he drank a lot. But yeah, Andrew Johnson, alcoholic. Oh, now that I mentioned that though, Andrew Jackson, he was also a heavy drinker. I'ma do a whole episode on Andrew Jackson just because I think he's badass. But yeah, he was a drunk. He was a drunk, and he's been in hundreds of duels. He's killed people. Literally, he's killed people. And he was, I would say, the first populist president, definitely. Because he came from nothing. Like Washington, Adams, Jefferson, all these founding fathers were rich and educated. Andrew Jackson was neither. You know, he fought in 2 wars. He was a G, in my opinion. He would hate me though because he hated the Native Americans. He was a super racist guy, which is why I didn't really want to shed too much light on him. But I'll do a whole episode on him, just because. Apart from him being racist, the guy was a badass. I don't like him for the fact that he's racist, but I'm able to respect like his merit. Say what you want about the guy, but the guy's a fucking G. But he was also an alcoholic. And yeah, he would get really drunk and really aggressive. A lot of the presidents were alcoholics, now that you think about it. So we got Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson, Richard Nixon, and a lot of them just drank chill vibes, but they all kind of drank. Another person I would like to bring up is the Austrian painter, Hitler. So Hitler, if you don't know, he was a huge fan of the drugs. Which drugs in particular? All of them. Literally, yeah. Like, he would do meth, he would do coke, he would do oxy, he would take tranquilizers. I'm guessing like ketamine before ketamine existed. And he would even fucking inject himself with like fucking bull sperm and like liquid from the bull prostate because he felt like that energized him. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this guy was a psycho. Like, imagine being his doctor and he's like, get me some bull balls. And you just have to look at him like, all right, man. How many? Because, I mean, like, you don't want to end up in a concentration camp. So, I mean, you're just going to say, yeah, sure. What do you need, boss? But brief history on why he liked drugs. How I mentioned it earlier, how the Nazis would supply their soldiers with meth. Well, before they gave them meth, in World War One, they gave them, well, it wasn't the Nazis, but the Germans. The Nazis came to power after World War One. But the Germans would give their soldiers these pills. Let me see what it was called exactly. Sorry, guys. Yeah, there you go. Pervitin. So Pervitin was the drug they gave in pill form. It was just crystal meth that they would take. They would also make it into chocolates and give the chocolate bars to the soldiers, which is crazy. Chocolate meth. I've heard of shroom chocolate bars, allegedly, and I heard they're pretty good, allegedly. But I can't imagine like meth. Like, that sounds crazy. I'm like, why would you even eat that? That sounds disgusting. But yeah, so he got introduced to coke while he was a soldier in World War I, and a lot of people that served with him said he was an odd guy, but he was cool. They're like, he wouldn't really talk or socialize with us a lot, but he was solid. Uh, and they said when the battle started though and bullets started flying, he changed like that. He turned from this nonchalant, chill guy who would just like draw to a psycho, and the reason for that is cocaine. He would uh, take cocaine and then he'd relay messages from trench to trench under fire. A lot of this could be propaganda, but some people would verify and say it's pretty accurate. I can see it. It's a big war. Yeah, I can see it, and I think it would have been debunked by now. But yeah, a lot of people attribute that to the cocaine. And once he got into power in the 30s, he stopped taking cocaine because it got a bad rep. People were like, it's really addictive. You got to start doing things that are safer. So you know what? We're going to put you on crystal meth because that's safer. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. That's literally what the doctor told him. Hey, like, no more coke, but you know what you would love? Meth. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. And the doctor wouldn't just give him meth. He gave him a whole cocktail of fucking drugs. Yeah, so he would take a variety of drugs. And I mean, yeah, if I was running an empire, I would need something running me too. And the crazy thing is, the doctors were too afraid to cut him off, or even people close to him were too afraid to question him. And that kind of led to his downfall because he became a junkie and he was too delusional. So no matter what, he's like, oh, we're going to win the war. We're going to win the war. Like, have you ever had a conversation with someone who's like really off drugs and their sense of reality is just completely fucking different than what reality is? That's kind of what was happening with Hitler. He was in his own little world and he was like, yeah, we're eventually going to win the war. I'm like, brother, you're fighting a two-front war. You lost the whole army in Stalingrad. You're losing every battle since then in the Eastern Front. And now you got the Allies landing in Normandy in France. So you're getting pushed in and you think you're going to win. No. But like I said, it was the drugs kind of making him a little crazy. What's really crazy, though, is by the time it was December 1944, January 1945, the Allies were able to begin bombing in Germany. And they were targeting factories. And one of these factories they targeted was one of the pharmaceutical companies. So he was cut off like this. And no matter how much he screamed at his doctors, at his men, to get him drugs, it's impossible because there's embargoes. So you're not going to get it from the Allied nations. And all your factories are destroyed. So you can't really get it domestically. So yeah, he was fucked. And that's when reality started hitting him. Kind of like when you're coming down off like coke or ecstasy. Like I've heard, allegedly, that it feels very depressing. Now imagine having a come down and your whole country's falling apart and you're about to be invaded by millions of enemies that you put their people through genocide. Yeah, not something I would want to experience. That'd probably be like the worst come down ever. Just imagine that. Like, it's bad enough like fucking having a sick ass time at a rave and then like coming down. Now imagine fucking you being at the top of the world and then you lost everything and your people are gonna die. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no wonder he was going crazy. And eventually he did the world a favor and he committed suicide, allegedly. I think he went to Argentina or Chile or Brazil, somewhere in South America. That's what I think. I think there's no way in hell he killed himself. But, you know, I could be wrong. And who would be the last person? Oh, yeah. Honorable mentions that I'm going to bring up about the drug use. JFK. JFK was a heavy drug user. He started taking drugs as a young child because he was really weak and he would get sick often. So he constantly needed to be taking medicine. So in his mind, he's like, well, medicine's good. So any drug that my doctor prescribes me is good. No, not necessarily. So he got addicted to painkillers, and he would take a variety of drugs. He would even take coke. He would take vitamin shots like Hitler's doctor would do. JFK would do that too. So his doctor would give him shots of amphetamines. If you don't know what amphetamines are, they're uppers, you know. So he would just get injected with speed, and to the point where the doctor lost his license after Kennedy died because he kept giving these shots to other rich, famous people, and one of them eventually passed away. So he lost his medical license after that, and Kennedy was getting these often. His own brother had a joke. He's like, if a mosquito, or if a bee or a mosquito bites my brother, the mosquito's going to die or the bee's going to die because of how much drugs he had in his veins. And he was a party boy too. So a lot of you have probably heard that he would clap Marilyn Monroe, which is true. He would take drugs, drink, and use the Secret Service to bring women in and out, or even take them places to fuck women. He's even fucked 2 secretaries. Bill Clinton just got a blowjob, and they blew that shit out of proportion. Personally, I think he was being blackmailed by Israel. Not JFK. Clinton. But, yeah, JFK, party boy, and he would take drugs. Another reason for his drug use, though, was during World War II, he was the commander of a submarine, a PT boat, kind of. And it crashed into a Japanese ship or something along those lines. It got fucked up, and he had to basically swim to safety, and he had to save his men. And he was on the swim team for Harvard or Yale, one of them, and he would actually, that one's gonna bug me. I think it's Harvard. Yeah, Harvard. Yeah. So he was on the Harvard swim team. So he was a stud in the water. And the legend has it that he tied himself to one of his sailors because he was the lieutenant. And he tied it to a knife in his mouth. And he pulled one of his sailors while he was swimming. And it could be propaganda. But the fact is, he did save his men. And he did have that accident, and the news hypes it up and makes it seem like he's such a hero, but his dad was really rich and he manipulated the newspaper. In fact, it was his fault and his ship's fault that they got caught and they got their ship damaged. But his dad was able to pay enough newspapers to spin the narrative to make his son look like a hero. And the reason for that was Kennedy's dad wanted one of his sons to be president. And he was grooming his older brother, Joseph Kennedy Jr., to be the president. But he passed away during World War II. He was a bomber, and the plane exploded in midair. So the dad was like, all right, Johnny, you're up. And, yeah, he became president. So he got shot. And then his brother was going to run, and then he got shot. And now his nephew is the health secretary, RFK Jr., So yeah, Kennedy, JFK, did drugs, and just throw it in there. Yeah, his nephew was a heroin addict for a decade, but a functioning drug addict. A lot of people think that drug addicts are like the people you see outside Arco talking to themselves. The vast majority of drug addicts are functioning drug addicts, just like the vast majority of alcoholics are functioning alcoholics. And if you've learned anything in this podcast, is yeah, you can be wildly successful and still abuse substances, allegedly. So, what other shout out would I give from the people I read about? Oh, yeah, Nixon. Nixon was an alcoholic, but they said he was a lightweight. And every time he would get drunk, he would try and nuke America's enemies, whether Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. He even wanted to nuke Korea after the war ended. And it got to the point where the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense contacted the Pentagon. They're like, if he orders, or anyone from the White House tries to order a nuclear strike, check with us first, because this motherfucker could be drunk. And Nixon was the kind of drunk to drink and forget about it the next day. So he would constantly fire like his chief of staff, like high staff people. And then the next day, he'd be like, Bob, you got the report I was looking for? And then he'd be like, what the fuck? I thought you fired me. It got to the point where they just, if he was drunk and they fired them, I'll just be back tomorrow. Like, he's just drunk. Yeah, it's kind of scary. That motherfucker was in charge of the nukes. Well, I mean, we're not much better off with this fucking fat ass orange guy. Oh yeah, 2 honorable mentions just to end this podcast. I wonder how long this one's gonna take me to upload. I've never done a video, so we'll see how long this takes me to upload. But 2 people who love their booger sugar: Queen Victoria and Pope Leo the 13th. But they weren't taking bumps like Scarface. Like, it wasn't like that. They would mix the Coke in wine, and it was a specific brand. I'll get the name for it. Actually, let me see. There you go. Yeah. Vin Mariani. Yeah, that was the Coke brand that Queen Victoria and Pope Leo drank. Pope Leo is really good, because even nowadays, if you see when people go out to the bars and then they're going to the bathroom every fucking 10 minutes, it's because alcohol and cocaine does something to your brain, and it's supposed to feel really good, allegedly. So that's why that wine was a dangerous mix, to the point where both the Queen and the Pope gave the inventor of that drink awards. Like, that's crazy. Like, the Pope is literally giving this guy an award for a wine that has cocaine in it. He's like, this shit's amazing. It's crazy. It's really crazy. People, how things change. Now it has a bad stigma. I think we're not really seeing the effects of it, but I think down the line, the one drug we're going to look back and be like, why the fuck were people doing that? Probably going to be wax, like the Benjamin and things along those lines, because it's really high concentrated THC and it's really readily available. So either that or vapes, because we haven't really got enough research, or both of them, on the long-term effects of these, because they've only been out for like less than a decade. So yeah, I feel like the stigma around those two are going to change very soon, but we'll see what happens. But to end off this episode, I wonder how this is going to come out on YouTube. This is my first time recording a video. I kind of like it. Kind of look weird with the glasses. Some of you probably never seen me with glasses. I wear glasses when I have to read a lot or stare at a screen for a long time, just because the blue lens is good for your eyes. You only have one set of eyes, so might as well keep them safe. And for my next topic of discussion, I don't know. I'm gonna see what I'm feeling. There's one podcast I'm working on, but it takes a while to get information for that one. It's gonna be on badass women, in my opinion. Uh, just throughout history, like Joan of Arc. There's this female samurai. She was a gangster. I'll get into that one though. So yeah, uh, give me some time to do more research, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely try and get an episode out within these next 2 weeks. All right, later, guys.